Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. We're going to open the administrative board meeting. Roll call, please.
I have trustees Chris Samples,
Here.
John Talbot,
Here.
William Luxinger,
Here.
Nathan Maz,
Here.
Jen Christensen, here, Bill Motisi,
Here.
President Rick Worm,
Here.
Treasurer Brenda Onabini,
Here.
I Clerk Sandy Maz, I'm here, Public Works Supervisor Brett Fergie,
Here.
Engineer Matt Hanson.
Here.
All right. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have 4 items. Item 1, January 24th, 2023 Administrative Board Minutes. Item 2, bills payable warrant list dated February 28th, 2023 for a total of $14,917.30. 3, park system advertising application from Stillman Bank Fitness Junction, Bobcat of Rockford, Hearst Heating and Cooling, pending payment of fee in full. And number 4, resolution number 21-07, a resolution for maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code, formal contract proposal, estimate of maintenance costs and maintenance engineering to be performed by a consulting engineer for Junction Road and Edson Road Street project. At this time, do any of the board members wish to remove any of those 4 items for further consideration?
Yes, Your Honor.
Which item would you like to remove, Bill?
Item number 1, administrative board minutes from January 24th,
Okay,
2023.
any further?
No.
All right,
You want the reason for that or we just
No.
taking it
no,
out?
well, with that, when we get the motion and discussion,
Oh, okay, thank you.
we'll entertain that motion for items 2 through 3 or 2 through 4.
Move to place agenda items 2, 3, and 4. Where am I? Inclusively as a consent agenda items. Further, I move that all items be considered together as a consent agenda.
Second. Jen makes a motion to place items 2, 3, and 4 inclusively as consent agenda. Nathan seconds. Roll call, please.
Jen,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
William.
Yes.
Second motion.
I move to adopt items 2, 3, and 4 inclusively on the consent agenda in a single group pursuant to the omnibus vote procedure specified in the Illinois Municipal Code.
Second.
Jen makes a motion to adopt items 2, 3, and 4 inclusively as a consent agenda. Nathan seconds. Roll call, please.
Bill,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
Jen.
Yes.
Motion passes 703. We need a motion and a second for item 1 when we get into discussion.
Motion to approve January 24th, 2023 administrative board minutes. Second.
John makes a motion to approve January 24th, 2023 administrative board minutes. Nathan seconds. Is there any discussion?
Yes. I disagree with the administrative board minutes that they are misleading and that they impugn my integrity for attending and being the representative, but not the head of the board to the Ogle County Economic Development Committee.
I'm sorry. So I have a few things in which to respond to, including the fact that this board typically follows Robert's Rules of Order, which require that if you are going to object to any portion of the minutes, that you have to offer a correction to it.
Yes.
What's your correction offer?
You have to make it motion form.
Okay, I make a motion that the minutes be reflective and change to the fact that I did everything according to what I was supposed to do by attending whatever meetings that I could attend. And that it was asserted and said by Brenda Onabini that she received information which she would not disclose, that the village had missed out on a grant because she was not notified of it. Well, on several occasions, I have addressed the board and told them about the Ogle County Economic.
Bill, I need this in a motion that I can repeat.
Oh, can't you repeat that?
10 words or less.
No, because I can't say, according to Robert's Rules of Order, I cannot say amended as stated. I cannot say that.
So,
Oh,
Bill,
okay,
look,
yeah,
just
go ahead.
to make this easier for you,
Oh, what?
is anything in the minutes false?
Yes.
Is it
It's
false?
misleading and.
That's not what I asked. I asked if it was
Then you
false.
cannot, you're the clerk, you can't ask
And these
anything
are my
like that.
minutes.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that. All you're saying in here is that this was discussed and the mayor presented it,
Mhm.
and that's all that had to be said at this point.
These are the
And
facts
that
of
is
that
what-
meeting.
That is only partially true.
That is the
of what
facts
it
of
is.
that meeting.
So if you can condense this into what you would like to see a correction to, please do.
Yes, that the village was informed by me several times that we should join this Ogle County Economic Development Committee. And that there's nothing but good for us to do that. And then a turnaround occurred,
Not gonna get a second anyway.
a turnaround, what, pardon me, something going?
Go ahead, keep going, Bill.
Okay.
Get it brief.
Oh, okay. And that a turnaround has occurred with the board, which I was not informed of or discussed with, that the board was going to become a member of the Ogle County Economic Development Group Committee, and that Brenda was going to be the head of that committee. And I had voiced, many times that I would like to do that. And
That's not correct. We're not a member of it
He's
as
still,
at
he's
this
still in the
point.
midst of his motion.
Don't interrupt.
Mama, stay.
pardon me?
Go ahead, finish your
Okay.
motion.
Okay, that the village will be becoming a member of the Ogle County Economic Development Committee with Brenda as the chair and not me. And I was told even during meetings that Davis Junction had no interest and that we're standing alone and not going to join that committee. No aspirations at all whatsoever.
You done with your motion?
Oh, I will correct one thing in there, and that was.
Okay, go ahead. Say that again, sir?
Was.
We're not members of the,
All right, is that your motion?
Yeah.
All right. Do we have a second to Bill's motion to correct the minutes?
I would offer up
Go ahead, Bill. Pardon me?
minutes.
Well, let's get
From
back
my
to-
perspective, I'm just having discussion still under the motion.
Okay, well, we haven't got a second for that motion. So we gotta get back to the other motion for that
I'll
discussion.
wait.
Is there a second for Bill's motion?
I'll give him a second.
All right, so
Why not?
I'm not even sure how to say this.
It's-
Bill has made a motion to change the minutes to reflect that he had attended meetings as the village board had no interest in doing this. Oh, I was going to correct you as to the point that Brenda is not a chair of this. She is just attending it.
No, you,
She's not a chair. She's our point person there, but she's not a chair.
who's our chair then?
We do not have a chair for that.
Not our committed chair.
Right. William has seconded that motion. Discussion.
You or me?
oh, no, come on. Just you go.
Okay. I'll just say minutes reflect what my memory is of that meeting. So I'll get that out there. Secondly, I would entertain allowing this to be tabled while you put something in writing to present what your belief is to change the minutes. Because since you're claiming that the minutes are not correct, it's your job to present what you believe to be correct minutes in a document form, and then I'd be inclined to vote on that. But to my recollection, the minutes that are typed currently are a true reflection and representation of the meeting that happened.
Second.
You know, we have to get past this one before we can get to that.
Oh, shit.
Just for
Well,
clarity.
actually, we're in the midst of a motion, so we could table that motion.
Ju-
Are you willing to table this bill until you can put together what your objection is?
Um,
And offer the minutes of which
Go ahead.
you think they were.
But shouldn't he have the full facts first?
You can watch the video.
No, I mean, we're not even a member of it.
Which has been stated.
We're not a
The
member
chair.
of,
we are going to become a member.
no, we're not.
What are we gonna be coming then?
People that show up.
A
spectator in the room.
We are attending.
Then
And,
what's-
and I went with Brenda at to the last meeting where they were going over their rules of what the board would be.
Correct.
They would like us to participate as a non-contributing member, but we haven't agreed to anything at this point.
That's what you said, not being
Contributing,
a a contributing,
They would like
Member.
us to become a non-contributing member.
that isn't my understanding. It's that that we were going to become a full contributing member, which would be wonderful.
Where did you get that as your understanding from? Because this board is the people who decide it, and we've never said that. So, unless this board
I tot-
agrees to that,
I-
we're not.
What did the board agree on January 24th?
We didn't want.
We agreed that that if you wanted to go, you would represent yourself. That we weren't a member of it and you weren't representing us. That was it.
Right. And why would you go and Brenda go?
I went because I wanted to see what they had to offer. To educate myself on what they were doing. Brenda went to, so if they have any more grant stuff that they have proposed, we'll know about it and we don't miss a deadline. Which is why Rick sent Brenda to represent or to inform, keep us informed. She's not
A chair.
contributing, she's just there to
She could
observe.
be at every meeting as part of her normal
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah. I went because I wanted to see what they had to offer. And all they're doing currently is setting up the nonprofit that they want it to be. They haven't even come to terms with
Not.
how it's going to be, how it's going to function yet. They're still in the process.
That is correct. It's gonna take a while to get that set.
$50,000 grant that was only by a deadline that was only given to the people in attendance that was never communicated back to the village. So
And where did we get the information then?
after the fact from our neighboring community,
Who's our neighboring community? Let's get specific.
All kinds of.
we got,
Chair.
by all means, because it came from Stillman Valley,
Who?
Stillman Valley.
Stillman Valley, who? Who, what, when were,
The
Why?
village
Clerk
of
of Stillman
Stillman.
Valley.
okay, give me an,
We did have,
okay, I'd like a name, please.
was it?
This is way outside.
Yeah.
Call question.
Yeah, call- second.
Well, everyone's talking at once. I can't hear.
It was not the clerk, it was the president, Marty Tippett.
It was, he was there.
Call the question, second.
I seconded.
Oh,
Williams.
Okay, we're still in the second. So is there any further discussion on Bill's motion? Bill, offer you again. Would you like to table this to come up with a written change to the minutes?
Sure. Now, these minutes will not be approved and they're going to be tabled.
If we table them, we will table the minutes.
Okay.
You have to make up, you will have.
Yes,
to-
yes, I believe in
you'll
being
have to-
fair,
We have to.
fair and
You'll have to
open.
kill this motion, make a motion to table the minutes and then do it.
That being said, anything that is tabled by law, we are to adopt our minutes within 30 days or the next meeting. I do not want to see this sit on the table, so I would like there to be a table deadline of no
Right.
later than
Next
that
week.
Regular board.
Actually,
meeting when we can
next
vote on it.
week is probably going to be a special meeting, which we'll get to. So next week sounds great, if you don't mind, Rick.
That's to be fantastic. Can you have them by next week, Bill?
Pardon me?
Can you have them by next week?
Can you write down your information?
Can't say for sure, but it's going to be an exhaustive, precise,
All right, it will be
report.
on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so I
So-
For
have
what?
a motion, yeah,
Hold on. So we have the motion still pending for Bill's motion. Do roll call.
so this,
What? We have a motion and second.
But you tabled.
You
it.
can't make an execution on the motion and then allow it to come back. You either
No,
cancel
we-
the motion. Yes, you
It,
do.
Thought it was
we will,
We
we,
vote on it multiple times.
can you withdraw the motion though,
Yes.
while
Yes.
there's even a first and a second? So Bill, would you like to withdraw your motion?
No, I wouldn't want to.
you have to withdraw it to table.
Well, let's just
Then we
vote
vote
on it.
on it.
Let's just
Okay.
vote on it and get it.
Okay,
Wait, let's be fair. Bill, you have to be able to table the original motion. You have to withdraw this motion. If we vote on this motion, it dies here.
Okay, so if I do agree to withdraw, it can be entered and discussed later.
But you have to withdraw this motion to get to that point.
If that is true,
If you-
I will withdraw.
If you do not withdraw, we vote on it, it dies here.
confirming you're withdrawing.
Yes.
So, back to the original motion. If you want to table it, you have a motion to table.
Okay, I'd like to table the minutes from what, January 24th, 23, the administrative board minutes.
Until next week.
I don't know if I only might need 2 weeks,
No,
Nope.
Next week.
we have 30 days legally to pass
30 days.
from the
Okay.
date.
I will have the answer within the 30 days.
No,
Yeah.
we have-
No, 30 days was today. We needed to pass them today.
Oh, I,
We cannot continue on
Oh.
these minutes beyond that.
so when do they have to be brought back?
Next
week.
next week,
Tuesday.
we have to do them by next Tuesday.
Okay,
So you make a motion,
I want to make a motion that,
table the minutes from the January 24th, 2023 Administrative Board until next Tuesday.
yes,
That's Bill's motion. We have a second. Nathan seconds.
You can do it all in
Any
favor.
no, is there any discussion on the tabling?
No.
Thank God. All in favor, aye? Say aye.
Oh,
Aye.
you're gonna want a roll call.
Oh, you just said,
Yep, because we thought we were good. We are not good.
sorry for my profanity. Go ahead, roll call.
John,
No.
Nathan,
No.
Chris,
Yes.
It's.
William,
No.
Jen,
No,
Bill.
yes.
That's
Motion
worded to.
fails at 7:16.
So we're not doing anything.
So the original
Motion
motion.
to
Motion
approve the
still on
January
the-
24th, 2023
That motion
administrative.
Still on the table.
Second.
Well, I've
He
got-
withdrew his motion to correct it.
Would you like a roll call on that one?
We are still in discussion. Is there any further discussion on the January 24th, 2023?
That one's still there. We did a sub motion. That motion was still there.
Roll call.
What are we voting on?
With this is a roll
To approve
call
the minutes.
to approve the minutes of January 24th, 2023. Nathan,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
Jen,
yes,
Bill.
How can I vote, on this? I have to vote no, because I'm not approving them.
John,
Yes.
5.
Motion passes 7:17, and that was the motion to approve the number one.
That's some good poker there. I just.
2020, January 20. Okay,
We don't have.
no further things.
Here's.
You,
Hello, everyone.
no.
How we doing?
A lovely, it was this,
Hold up. Glenda, can you hear Kira?
hello, can you hear me?
Maybe she,
You're on mute
yeah, she's in Texas.
if you're here.
Yes, I can hear her.
Oh, there's.
Thank you very much.
Lovely.
I don't have my headset to confirm.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for the time tonight after we got a nice tour of Robert's rules. I wanted to come and speak to you all again after kind of hearing your feedback and thoughts on the project at the end of last year. We took some time to, look at the property, talk with the landowners again, and kind of go back to the drawing board to come before you again, have just another conversation to see if any of the changes that we proposed might, make the project more palatable. Again, we're still in this stage where, this is more of a preliminary conversation and in hopes of kind of getting a sense of your interest and getting any questions out of the way. And we have not yet submitted a special use permit application, kind of based on your feedback on the last round of the project. But wanted to take the opportunity to have this conversation. And then I've also brought with me Andrew Lines, who is a principal at Cohn Resnick, who will speak a little bit on the project's kind of impact to property values, commercial development, and some of his experience in solar in Illinois. As well as Diana and Brian Alt, who are family members of the landowners, to kind of share their perspective as well. So I will kind of dive right in. A lot of the strongest feedback I heard in terms of the project last time was in regards to the location and the visual impact of the project. So we went back to the drawing board with our engineers and as well as in speaking with our landowner family, that kind of shifting to this northwest corner of the property was potentially, a good solution for all parties, for the project to be further away from and further out of the way of the commercial corridor. And then we've also introduced a vegetative buffer on the entire southern and eastern boundaries of the property. And the existing western boundary is already tree lined and the railroad to the west of there. And then the north has kind of a mix of trees and shrubs. The access road that you can see here is through kind of family-owned property of our landowner. There's an existing access point there. We would have to, I assume, upgrade, reinforce it, but that is kind of an existing turnoff point into the property that,
Is that the driveway to the old house?
Bennett Farms.
exactly. So that was a suggestion from Diana, actually, and I think kind of a good use of that existing drive, and then kind of shifts our proposed access further west away from the town's future development. I just will briefly, I think this, like I said, kind of is, moving the project furthest out of the way and also best for farmability of the remaining acreage for our landowners. Sandy, if you could switch to the next one quickly. I just want to mention this site plan as well, because some of the concerns last time were with regards to access off of 72. We did, consider what would it look like to access off of 251. So if you can see here, this just has a proposed site access that's starting south of, there's kind of a tree line along 251. This would access just south of there, and then the road would head like west and northwest to access the project site. This is really not an ideal layout in terms of kind of farmability of the remaining acreage, and not ideal for our landowner. The one other thing though about this layout is we could kind of merge the two, and especially when it comes to the access road. So we could access, if, for whatever reason, it's optimal to access off 251, we could kind of put this access there. The road would kind of go probably all the way to the northern boundary of the property line, and then head all the way west to that northwest corner project that you saw in the first shot. So those are kind of the changes I wanted to mention in terms of the layout, and I'll highlight just some quick figures in terms of like, where does this put us in comparison to this commercial corridor or potential future commercial development. If we're thinking about, sorry, if you could go back one. If we're thinking about this layout, this is about 1,000 feet or a little over 1,000 feet setback from the road. The existing commercial properties, like the entire property where the vet's clinic is about 600 feet. So we've got an additional 400 feet setback from that area. And then I mentioned the use of the existing access. And then same thing with a kind of eastern option. It's the same distance north. That eastern option also is about 700 feet from 251. So those are our major kind of site plan changes. Happy to take kind of any comments or questions, but I did want to touch on two other items quickly. First is like a question or concern from last time was the project you all did approve that you felt is kind of in a good location for the town. If approving this would come into conflict or cause issues for that project to move forward. And I just wanted to kind of give a more clear answer on two fronts why it's not. First, in terms of interconnection, which is kind of the biggest barrier for these solar projects. That project to have come before the board when they did was certainly, or like, I would assume it would be crazy if they weren't in the interconnection queue kind of ahead of this project, which means we're not impacting or, there's no opportunity for us to sort of cut in line or interfere with their interconnection process. So my assumption would be that, we'd have no impact on that front. And then similarly, in terms of our interaction with the state solar program, zoning approval or town permitting approval is a prerequisite of entering that program. So presumably that project, after receiving approval from you all, has already submitted their application to the town. So, we're definitely behind them on an interconnection front, no interference there. And then similarly, not at the stage yet where we are entering the state program, which is also no longer a lottery. It's also a get in line system. So we will similarly be behind them on that front. Okay. Okay. And then I did want to touch on, I know a question that was brought up last time was the landfill as a possibility in terms of interconnection. I think I kind of mentioned and emphasized, but just want to reiterate, it's a huge barrier, and the kind of feasibility to be moving there, it's not an option, and we don't have flexibility with ComEd. Like I get feedback a lot, like, what if you just talk to ComEd and you say you don't want your project here, you want it there? that is unfortunately not at all how this grid and interconnection process work, for the good and the bad, that projects have to really strictly follow these processes and procedures. But I think I mentioned last time, we even had proposed another interconnection point on the property for a potential second project, which had, you know, astronomical infeasible interconnection cost. Similarly, we are exploring a land option with a landowner a few miles south of town, and it was kind of similarly infeasible. So we're talking about a very saturated area in terms of interconnection. And when a project has, like this one, you know, happens to enter the queue at the correct time such that the potential upgrades have a feasible or manageable project cost, it is kind of a rare opportunity, and there's really limited flexibility to kind of move or consider other areas. So those are the things that I wanted to cover and wanted to kind of keep it brief. I'm happy to take any specific questions about the site plan now, but I also want to make sure that the rest of the folks here have time to kind of get through a few items as well.
You said the new system is get in line. Does that mean everyone in line up to a certain point gets approved? Or, well, if you all meet the guidelines and qualification?
In terms of the state program?
State program, yeah.
Yeah, so it is, there was a lot of negative feedback about the lottery. It, of course, created a lot of chaos, confusion, delay. So there is an annual, the state program is switching to annual blocks of capacity that are rolled out.
Okay.
And yes, if you meet the criteria for whatever program you're applying for, they also created kind of different categories that projects can apply for. If you meet the criteria and you're deemed to have passed, then yes, you secure. And there's sometimes like there's now point systems, you need a minimum points. So if you clear a threshold, then yes, you're kind of in line. But a lot of the programs are very highly oversubscribed. But to your point, yes, if you meet the threshold, you're in line. You might be, you know, a few years down the line, but you have kind of a sense of clarity of when that's coming forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the concerns the board brought up last time was the amount of equipment that was going to be needed along 72. Is that been moved off of 72 now?
So our interconnection poles are still proposed to be along and parallel on 72. This is kind of an element where we have very limited flexibility with ComEd, unfortunately. I think this is, you know, a pain point I do hear sometimes when people are looking at proposals for these projects. And I'd really encourage you all to, like, in the next few days, try to force yourself to look at the electrical equipment, like on your street, like in town. I actually was doing this today. And I agree, it's not the most beautiful equipment, but the thing is, you don't realize it. Like, you wouldn't know that except if you didn't take this initiative to like force yourself to look at it. It's a part of our daily lives. It really does blend in to town, to our infrastructure. It's, you know, everywhere and required for all of our existing electrical infrastructure. But yeah, so unfortunately, the poles, I think we have relatively limited flexibility. It's certainly a conversation I would propose to ComEd. And in this example, especially, like, now that we are potentially moving the road, it would be to our benefit to also move the poles to where our access road is. That would also be closer to the substation. Then we're upgrading less of the power line. So it would be very beneficial to the project. But again, we're kind of we have to follow these strict process outlined by the Illinois Commerce Commission when we go through this study process with the utility. So flexibility tends to be quite limited.
What I'm hearing is that the equipment across from our potential new project will still be there.
And by equipment,
Yeah.
it's 5 poles, and they have, yeah, like a you know, a box or a little cylinder on top, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, I think I'll kind of keep us moving.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, you want to take it away?
Hey, Andrew Lines, Lines. I'm a principal with Cohn Resnick. We're a real estate focused accounting firm, and I help lead our valuations group. So I've been an Illinois commercial real estate appraiser for over 20 years. My partner, Patricia McGar, is the chair of the State of Illinois Department Financial Regulations Appraisal Board. So she's like the #1 appraiser in the state. And we've been studying a lot of different kinds of property, but specifically solar and wind projects for the last 6 years. We've looked at dozens and dozens and dozens of solar farms of various sizes all across the country, including Hawaii, which has been pretty amazing. And we typically are looking at concerns of residential owners and people who live in homes that are next to solar. That typically is the #1 issue. So when Kira told me about this project, it really is, from my real estate appraiser perspective, a pretty wonderful site. I know that there were some considerations about your project south of 72. And, you know, 1,000 feet in between the road and where the solar panels are proposed on this site plan still leaves a ton of room for all kinds of different kind of commercial development. Strip centers, 1,000 feet, you can still get in a supermarket based on the distance that's needed from the road. And so that's going to build out and complement whatever kind of retail you have going for the south side of 72. I don't see from my perspective that this is going to hamper or impair that in any way whatsoever. I also know that Kira told me about the transmission poles and how they might be considered unsightly, but the size and the length of them are still less than most cell towers and less than other heavy electrical equipment. So I don't see them as being enormously different from, you know, pretty large telephone poles. But I did want to offer my experience and see if you had any questions for me. Again, I've looked at a lot of data and, you know, we're finding that these solar farms just do not cause the kind of impact, negative impact that people might think about it.
The first proposal was right against 72, which is what we would see later as our commercial corridor coming into the village.
Great.
This proposal, the very first one with it shoved in the northwest corner of the property, to me, again, I'll speak for the board, is by far better. With the exception of what she was speaking of was the 5 telephone poles right across from and as Kira said, if we could get that moved down to that entrance road, that would be far better also. That would leave all of 251 and 72 open for commercial development.
These 5 poles that you're talking about, how far apart are they? Did they span?
They tend.
You have to use the mic, otherwise my recorder won't
You have
pick
a
it up.
picture.
Yeah, they tend to be like 30, between 30 and, or sorry, like 20 and 50 feet apart. Yeah.
Can they run perpendicular to the 72, or would they have to run parallel to 72?
We could turn them to, well, see, this is tricky. So if we could turn them to be perpendicular to 72, but then we need to ensure access, you know, for ComEd in the event that they need to maintenance the poles. We could potentially be using an existing access, since those wouldn't need to be kind of like serviced frequently, and it just kind of, you know, be someone probably on a pickup truck, that we could probably use the existing access that's on the road, and then if we were perpendicular next to where that access is.
Well, I'm just asking, would it have to be parallel to 72? Because if it's perpendicular where you have the access road to reach them.
Yeah, that's an option. We sometimes people prefer, in terms of visuals, they prefer that they're parallel because then it looks like they're part of kind of the existing overhead line, but more commonly they actually are perpendicular to the road like you're describing.
Be away from our very expensive projects.
Yeah, that's definitely an option.
Putting it perpendicular would make them run directly into the cornfield, and then, no, because it's still over across from 72, so it would go into the cornfield.
If they moved it to their access road.
But you asked if they could go
Oh.
perpendicular from their existing location. So what you're really asking is
I see.
them down to the access road and then make them go perpendicular along that access road. And I think, I'll let you confirm, but I think she had mentioned that she would have to check with ComEd, because ComEd would have to make that determination.
Yep.
Yeah.
It would also be preferred
That might
for
be
us.
important.
Yes. But yeah, to emphasize, like, that's definitely a conversation that I would have with ComEd, but we don't often see flexibility in these instances, but it would be, I agree, beneficial visually and also in terms of kind of the upgrades that would be required for us to interconnect would also benefit. But so then I guess back to your question about perpendicular, was that only in the context of the move?
Access road.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Rick, a question for you. Who's the owner of this land that they want to do this on? Rick, huh?
Segue.
Careful,
Right.
careful what
Beautiful.
spots you open.
I guess I got that idea with the Roberts rules. Since I'm very familiar with those, I understand what you all were just going through. Hi, my name is Diana Alt. I am the daughter of John Turner, who has owned that land since 1968. This is my husband, Brian Alt, who has also been a part of our family and what things we've been doing for quite a while. He's also been a part of you were a deputy for Ogle County for a few years and is a retired state game warden. So he does understand a little bit about conserving the nature of the land, which I know was part of your last concern. And I think those are things that we should talk about moving forward. So I just want to give you some historical context to why we're here tonight. One of them is that we have owned that farm since 68. My father has farmed that farm since 1978. So quite a few years. We currently have the land that is farmed by a young farmers co-op group that is run and led by John. So right now they are farming that land. It is nice, wonderful land. It's not a problem. However, we have in the past started to have talks with the village. I think it was back in around 90 when John sold the village those 5 acres that the vet clinic sits on now and the Byron Bank and so on. And there were some potential future plans that they had moving forward from that never came to fruition. So those are things. So we've been sitting on that land, in this land for quite a few years, trying to work alongside the board, waiting to see what the board wanted to do, the village wanted to do with that land, and really heard a lot of crickets. And so they've just continued on doing the co-op group there and continue to farm. But yet now the 3 owners, the 3 brothers, they're in probably their 80s now. They are ready, to consider what do we do next. This has been generational income for our family, moving for the last few years and probably years to come. So knowing that, they decided, since the village had yet to decide from their knowledge that there was any plan, though I did stumble across your 2007 comprehensive plan and stumbled over that and has shared that since, they are quite surprised since there hasn't been any conversation at this point with them. And so at this point, we are like in the midst now. In that meantime, them not knowing, they've said, what else can we do to preserve some of the land, yet make a little bit more income off of what's happening? The farmers group has expanded themselves. That was a learning group for the young farmers that were there to learn from John. And so they have now since started to go off and start some businesses and farming other land. So I think this is a good time now to start talking about what we do with this farmland piece. So knowing that, I think we kind of wanted to talk with you a little bit about why solar. And I think that was one of the questions that some people have asked, because I know you have something south of town that you did approve. I did look into that as well to see exactly what it was that you approved and it was okay with that one, but have yet now to not consider this one. I did work with Kira after the last, hearing the last set of feedback. That is what the map is there. So take into consideration some of the things that you have been working on and things that you're concerned about. And we think that has been a very nice option to move some of that back so that maybe you can't see it as much from the road, moving some of those poles that you're talking about, trying to get it a little bit out of sight. Totally respect that. What can we do so that we can bring some more income to our family? And that is what we're looking at. Solar, as you know, is huge in government right now. I don't think solar is going to go away. It is a tax benefit for you in the village and for your residents. And so those are all things we want to talk about. You don't have noise issues. You don't have erosion of soil. You don't have degrading land usage, you don't have any of that. As soon as you go commercial, as you know, you lose that. So we try to find a middle ground. How can we bring a little bit more income to the family, but yet again, to preserve some of the land that's there until the village has decided what they would like to do. So we're trying to work from what you all are wanting to do, what your development plans are, and kind of waiting that out. But you know what? Our time is kind of coming to a close soon, and we need to make some decisions. So we need your help with that. So why solar? We already talked a little bit about that. And it's our family's choice to turn this into a positive and less evasive and more lucrative income generator for us. So really, technically, that small piece right there will help generate at least 5 times the income than what it does now. So for us, it is something that's important. We know solar is something that future is having, that's going to become a big deal in the future. And so we want to support that as well. And we are certainly interested in commercial development and don't think that this solar project would at all impact negatively any future development within the area if you so choose to want to look through that. And we wouldn't place it here if we thought it would become a detriment to the community in any way, shape, or form. So as of right now, we have been working probably around the 2000s time with a realtor that actually is one of your community members.
I talk to her frequently.
I'm sure. So that was a bit surprising to us why we didn't know about some of the plans that were coming down and maybe had just been considered and talked about. So at this point, well, I'll just give an example. So I'm assuming Mr. President Worm, that you knew about the whole Dollar General situation. They did look at a piece of that property, but then all of a sudden got moved. Don't know why, have not looked into the minutes on that. Nor should it really be a big deal at this point, but we have a little bit of a taste in our mouth on that one. So we're just kind of trying to figure out what it is the board here.
Plans of the TIF district.
Dollar General won't come without a TIF district.
Okay. So that's good to know. That's going to be helpful for me to be able to share. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Trustees back then, no, that was solely, they
Okay.
won't, no Dollar General will go without a TIF district, and you can't put a TIF district down
Okay.
because of its development. You have to go to a distressed area.
Well, I sure appreciate that clarification. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Taking around the minute.
Yes, yes. So, yes, thank you for that information. So if for some reason you vote or you're saying to us, you really cannot live with this, then I guess my question to the board would be, then what? Because at some point we need to make some decisions. And as landowners, I would hope that you would respect the fact that we need to make some decisions. And we hope to make decisions that align to what it is that you would like to work on in the community, in the village. I've lived in Monroe Center all the way through most of my life, through high school until I went off to college. So I'm well aware of the community. And I used to visit my father all the time, go with him over to the old diner. If any of you remember that, right where the BP station is. Very familiar with this area. Yeah. Well, there you go. I was playing a wee little thing at that point. But yeah, we want to work alongside you, and what it is that we can do to get this through. We would greatly appreciate your consideration on that. Instead of just saying no, we'd like to, if it is that something you cannot live with, then we need to know what options that we have available moving forward. I think it would only be fair to talk to us about what those would be. So, is there anything you want to add to, like, talking about the land itself? Or
As Diana indicated, good evening, I'm Brian. As Diana indicated, environmentally, a solar panel array is going to have less of an impact than tillable acres will. They're going to reintroduce, excuse me. They're planning on reintroducing a green space, that the shrub buffer. They're going to reintroduce, as in previous minutes, because we listened to the previous meeting, and I think it was before the end of the year, prairie planting, native prairie grasses. With the Department of Natural Resources, I had the opportunity for 25 and a half years to work with all of our wildlife biologists, fisheries biologists, natural heritage biologists in particular, that worked on preservation of natural sand prairies and moraines. And the native prairie grasses and having a non-tillable use of that soil for the time frame of this solar array will benefit and put nutrients back in the soil. You're not going to have issues of wind erosion when you till each year. You're not going to have the herbicides. You're not going to have any runoff issues with the natural or native prairie planting that is going to occur underneath and around this solar array. You also will not have any issues with herbicides, weed killers, anything like that. You're not going to see high boy spraying chemicals on that section, which will help that soil for future use, whether it be commercial or ag. And I think it's a win-win. I think it's a win-win for something that will provide a utility benefit to the residents. And I think it's a win-win for something that's environmentally safe and friendly. And I think the village would have an opportunity to stand in the forefront of all the different communities within Ogle County, for which I patrolled for a couple of years under Mel Messer, to lead and take the lead on green energy. So I think it's a very smart project. So thank you.
I'm just gonna say something unrelated to your solar project. After the meeting, can I please get your contact information? Because as somebody who was a board member before here since 2013, we've really struggled to communicate directly with your family, and we have contacted your realtor on and off over the years with not necessarily great success, and they've back and forth of communication. So if I could get your direct contact after the meeting, I think that would help our board, because I know Rick has reached out several times over the years to your realtor.
I would
And
be
this
happy to get
this
it to you.
would help us communicate more.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry if that has been occurring. That is not our
Yeah,
intention
so
by
I-
any way, shape, or
I
form.
don't, we haven't been communicating either, but let's cut out the middleman and I'll get your
Absolutely.
contact.
Absolutely.
And I will
Yes.
give you one last thing about the 2007 comprehensive plan. Understand that anything that was brought up, if you've ever done a comprehensive
Mhm.
plan, anything that's brought up during those sessions of putting that together
Mhm.
is put into that plan.
Yes, yes.
And we've had landowners very angry at us since
Mhm.
2007 because there were suggestions of putting bike paths on their land,
Sure.
even though the village has no intent to do it. But because it was brought up by residents during that time frame, so kind of think the comprehensive plan as it's way outdated,
Mhm.
and some of the stuff will just never happen just because it might have been one suggestion. It's in there.
Yeah, I noticed that some of it could be outdated depending upon like the transportation hub, things like that, depending on what transportation looks like in moving forward. I figured that. I think it just caught the brothers a little off guard. I'm not gonna lie.
Even like the suggestion of tennis courts in there.
I think there was. Yeah.
You're getting, it
Yes.
really, what Rick's right, anything and everything a resident said ended up in there.
Sure.
That was part of the agreement we started with the company we hired, was that everything that is brought up will be put in the comprehensive plans. And some of it sounds great on paper,
Sure.
but trying to get landowners to go along with it, that's,
For somebody.
land go by your house with a bike path.
Yeah, for somebody who is well versed on creating strategic plans for districts and things, I understand that completely. You do want to reflect all the stakeholders and what things they do want. But yet at the same time, it did seem a little outdated. Didn't know if you were ready to consider looking at that. We would love to be a part of that if you want to. So we're putting it out there, but I do know, I think we're ready to start moving forward on some things. And have to understand a little bit about what the target areas and the goals of the village is. That would be helpful to us as well. So as we're not fighting
Well,
against
hang
you,
around
we
that
are
board.
working.
We can talk.
Sounds great.
That would be a question I would have too, is we would want to work commensurate with the village so that we're bringing in projects, you're suggesting projects, whatever, that's mutually beneficial for the community and what you guys have in mind. And maybe we could, after the meeting, sit down and discuss some options or things that you guys had in mind for some of those parcels. That would be excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, I got a question.
Oh,
Well, for
Ah.
which one?
I'll go to.
Tire trouble.
And
You mentioned that the family sold the village 5 acres and that the vet was built and that the village didn't communicate back any plan. What acres did the village buy?
So what's sitting there, that's commercial, was
Stenstrom.
everything. Yeah, so Stenstrom,
Sold that to Stenstrom?
our understanding is the village sold that to
You
Stenstrom.
want to know the whole backstory to it?
Short version, please.
Yeah,
the
very
Okay.
short version.
The abridged version. So when we bought the land from her father, we looked for a developer to develop that land. We put in the streets. The deal was if the land hadn't developed within a certain amount of years, that land was supposed to revert back to the village. There was a clause in there that said the land had to be improved or it would revert back to the village. We ran water and sewer to it. This is before my time. I think it's before your time.
They claimed
Yeah.
it's improved.
Once water and sewer was on it, it was improved, so they kept the land.
Do they have an intention to do anything with it? Maybe
The
offline?
remaining lot.
Talking to them, yes.
Remaining lots.
The remaining, oh,
Yeah, the remaining one.
there was a talk of
Quite a while.
a development on lot one, just
The one between the vet and 72.
Mhm.
if we actually had contact for somebody at your family, we could have pushed them off into the field.
And that's the other thing.
It was the Casey's gas station. They wanted direct access onto 72 and they couldn't get it from that line.
And we also
We
don't
worked
know-
for a long time to try to figure out how to get them here.
We've been trying to figure out how much your family's willing to subdivide that land out when they sell it. Now, and that's something we've never gotten an answer to.
Well, we will be
We
more
need
than
to get
happy.
together.
Yes.
Yep, that's fine.
So let's make sure we talk.
Yes.
Subdivision.
Now, on this second plan, do you mind moving it to that? Because there are some thoughts I had very quickly. This is not what I think my father was pretty much against this one, just because it takes up and wastes too much farmland is what my response back to him would be. It'd be very difficult to farm. However, instead of coming off of 72, the question is that Junction Way, I noticed it stops. One of the plans from last time was he was going to give that land to make the road go all the way through, which would have helped then get access to something like this if it was moved to that top corner.
Junction Way.
Yeah, and so that
There's no-
there was nothing there. Pardon?
There is
Come
right
across.
here.
Would come all the way.
It would come across.
All the way up. to
Future
town.
Eddie.
So
Yeah,
what
we
he was
actually
gonna
laid
do
that
with
out.
Junction Way,
It was laid out.
We don't have the money to do that anyway.
but remember
We
that
did.
originally what the plan was, he never heard back with, is he was willing to donate that land to make that road all the way, to go all the way through, so that it would be much easier to make some considerations
Right.
of doing whatever.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of things that I think he was willing to do, right, if the village built it. So I think there's just a lot of things that we can work together on to try to develop it. But as of right now, that solar panel piece is what is in the short term, some things that we would like very much to do for the reasons we just mentioned tonight.
Again, like I said, I have no oppositions to that plan, with the exception of trying to get ComEd law, the connection point to move, because that would just look. We got $3 million grant, to put something in nice and shiny and new, and I'd really hate to see something like that across the street from 250 feet.
So you mean the telephone poles? So I would agree, but yet understand too, you have those elevators that are sitting right there. I mean, and those are much higher and they are just as aesthetically unpleasant
Hold on,
as
these
that.
Poles being all, these poles all the way down here.
We're talking the poles over on this side.
Yes, but right now the plans have the poles here. And so, yeah, and so
Okay. Okay.
what Rick wanted and what we were talking about earlier
Yes.
was Rick would like to move the poles
Yes.
down to here.
And I would like to see
then-
that as well.
Yeah.
then-
That was my original
Yeah.
proposal and Kiera said that is something she would have to take back to.
Yeah.
council.
Hide them within the trees.
Yes.
There's beautiful trees on that lot,
Yes.
leave them there.
But the village is, so you guys are aware, the village is got a $4 million development
Mhm.
coming to this land right here.
Yes,
And so that's why the concern is here with those.
yes. Which I will also have to tell you, that was our land as well. So we sold that to
The back.
Mr. Bunger, I believe, way back in the day.
We bought
So-
it from a bank.
You got it from.
You bought it from a bank. That's that's the gossip that we had heard. We did not know that for sure. So,
Bank.
But I mean, and then the goal of all that is to spur economic development and start selling more land, which
That will.
we don't want to own land personally. That's one of the things we've went through this whole thing with. We do not want to own land.
Unless it's parkland.
May I ask,
Big development.
may I ask a question? Have you guys been in communication with, other than Casey's, any other retail establishments that are looking at that corridor that we can maybe help or assist in any way, shape or form?
We have one right now, but they're looking at some different land. But anytime we have anything, we try to, again, we don't know what
You wanna know
we've
what-
never known what that's willing to be broken up into. So all we're like, well, it's a $7 million piece of land if you want to buy it.
so I
You
think
wanna know
it,
what will stir development? Cause the number one call we get is somebody wants open floor space.
Yes.
If you had an
Brick and
empty
mortar.
shell, you get it filled. Now, you're the risk. That's where you get the risk, is you get to put front the money and put the shell out there, the building. But everyone that always calls, they are looking for
Retail space.
Because
Retail.
open space.
we hear that the rent prices that are available are very expensive. But if you notice, we have no services in this town.
Right.
There are no real estate agents, there are no salons, there are none of those things. Because there's no space for them.
Is that something you're interested in?
It'd have to be
Absolutely.
affordable space that the average Joe starting
Well, I
out
mean,
can afford
we're
and
not-
still make money.
That's
Right.
between,
Right,
That's not our-
right, you're right. I would agree with you.
We get calls frequently for
Okay.
open space. Where can I put this? We have nothing.
Okay, then you definitely need our number.
Yeah.
And we do need to talk.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that-
Thank
that
you
could-
so
that could
much.
Be a you and a developer combination and it doesn't have to involve us. Other than for approvals.
To bring us back,
Solar.
to bring us back just to the comment regarding the polls. That's certainly a conversation I will be having with ComEd about moving down the road a bit, but like I mentioned, potentially infeasible. Some solutions that I've explored with Ameren and would also try with ComEd if I get kind of a no on the first round is two things. There's 5 polls, like I mentioned, and 3 of them are the projects are like our polls and 2 are from ComEd, and they just contain kind of this required equipment for interconnection. And so what we may have the flexibility to do is move 2 of our poles back into the project area. And then kind of our final pole, what's most important is that our final pole is near and next to ComEd's meter that measures the output and their recloser. So that would, be at least beneficial, kind of like decreasing the number of poles that are there on the road. And again, these are like pretty low impact visually, like the equipment is not very daunting. And if they're parallel to the road, in this case, there's already an overhead line there. It'll sort of just look like additional poles along that line. The other thing, which again, haven't vetted with ComEd, but would ask about as maybe like a third option is there is equipment now on the market that combines our 3 poles into like a box essentially. So it would just be, again, reducing by 3 and the equipment that we have, which is a meter to measure the output, a recloser for like remote disconnect, and then an air brake switch for manual disconnect, all combined into one like electric utility box, like you see, probably plenty of them around town. So definitely going to explore those options with ComEd and hear the feedback about the visual concern on those poles. I definitely don't want to kind of overpromise on what ComEd can or can't or is or isn't willing to do here. Any other kind of questions or thoughts
How long would it take to get that answer?
from ComEd? That is a good question. I would say right now we've got a pretty strong contact stream or like a good back and forth with ComEd. So it could be, something that we hear back from them on in a few weeks. And then could kind of have, clarity, or if they decide to kick the can on it, it could be longer. Sometimes we see.
Rick, I have a question.
This is our planning zoning chair. Go ahead, Glenda.
I know at one time IDOT didn't want any more entrances on 72. Does the driveway to the house still qualify as a entrance? And if that's where they want to put the access to this, are they putting the road in to get back to that place?
So Matt, the IDOT has made it where it's what, 250 feet, or was it more than that? Between the flares of the road?
That is off the roadway before you can have access.
What about between them on?
Between them, it'll depend on whether you need turn lanes or not. Obviously, you're not gonna need turn lanes there because you're not gonna have any traffic
And
going
the
back.
existing, there is an existing driveway there, would it still constitute a entry point?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
first still there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
'cause
that's
it's
still there. And then the last question goes to you. You're putting the road in?
So right, we would need a road the full length from that access point back into the project area through that frontage road parcel.
Is that everything, Linda?
Paved road?
She just said they would
gravel
need a
road, yeah.
road. She didn't say who was building the road.
Oh, yes, we would, the project would, yes.
Yeah, right there.
They would build the road.
That's what's left of the entrance, Matt.
Still there.
Still there.
Is that, there's actually,
Gee, I wonder.
I would think that there's enough of an entrance there that, you know, obviously you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to get on the state right away to improve it, but
There's two, there's one closer to the railroad and one.
Closer.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, it is. No, because where's the little, where's?
Can
the-
you-
Is
where's
it this
the-
way one?
Yeah. 'Cause that's Morley's land.
That's where you're talking about the driveways right
I-
there.
No, that's what I just showed.
Oh, that's the one I was.
The original was way further down.
Maybe I got my mouth there.
together.
Hold up. I think I have one more.
Was that Bill in the?
Right
Right
there.
there. There we go.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
That goes back.
There we go.
Yeah, that goes back. Is that, isn't the silo still there?
That's where that.
Yes. The little machine shed.
So that's what's left of the
silos back there.
entrance.
The Quonset hut where.
No, because they,
The house came down, the basement was filled.
well, because they burned it down.
Okay.
Well, I got still call it an existing entrance.
That's more entrance than the first.
there's an entrance there. I mean, if you had to get on the IDOT right away to improve it, it's just a matter of going through their permit department for access to improve it.
So I guess what.
I think you
you're
probably
looking
get
for
it.
is, what do people feel about your proposed projects?
Yeah, I guess if there's any other questions or comments that you all have at this time, like I said at the beginning, we haven't kind of formally kicked off this process based on, opinions or kind of history of projects. So any feedback you all have, I'm curious to hear.
Being that I always have when I voiced mine.
I agree, but I forgot your name. There's big giant crane elevators next door. I don't really care about 5 poles.
Right.
But my question is this underground utility coming out of the project to the line, the pole?
Yep. Yeah. So that's an underground electrical from the project area to the existing poles. And so that's, fair to able to be farmed over and we just have easement access to that.
Problem I have with that is it divides the property and prevents development on top of it, does it not?
So we would need continuous easement access, I guess, in the event of,
So then it kind of.
Or needs some
defeats the
repairs.
house, But setback that you say is beneficial because you're now dividing the property in half as well. If you can't build over.
on that specific area. And I guess what you're getting at is it's hard to plan right now, or this would be constricting
Correct.
future layouts or
It
plans.
possibly could.
What was the easement?
Possibly, right. Here,
Well, no, I see the easement, but what is the distance on either side that if there was other development would have to?
right, what would the setback be?
Yeah,
Not great. I typically see,
I mean,
I think only 20 feet.
okay.
Yeah, not dramatic.
Utilities on each side.
Hold on. If we move the poles though down to the entryway.
Yeah, wouldn't that move that?
Wouldn't it move
Yeah.
that line?
Yeah,
also down?
If the poles move, the underground would move, but I do think this is a worthwhile conversation given the
Right.
potential that the poles can't move. I would say we could have flexibility in terms of where that underground line is routed. If it makes more sense to come straight south, then go east with the underground line, along the road, but that might cause its own issues.
One thing, William, that line, we may want to, once we get the preliminary laid out, your east road coming there, it may be just a little bit to the east of where your east entrance coming into the commercial development lines up. Because that road there, if you had development on the other side of the road, IDOT's going to want you to have those roads, those access points line up. So once we overlay that,
On our development.
on your development, that underground could potentially be in the right of way of a
Our
street going north.
Which would actually prevent development on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
Potentially shadow.
Yeah, there's literally a pole right at the end of that.
We have
driveway.
two entrances, right?
Yes. That would be obviously in line with your east entrance, and stuff, but if that underground would happen to be in a
I want to move these.
66-foot right of way, and stuff, it may not
Why don't we just?
necessarily break up the parcel necessarily. It would fall just in a future street right of way going north. That
Well,
makes sense.
knowing where we're at, that line is coming out right underneath the culvert pipe, right in front of the culvert pipe that runs up to 72.
That where they, is that where?
Yeah, so it's just east of it. And that was kind of part of where that,
The other side of
where
that
that road is
drainage.
and where that interconnect got laid out was to avoid.
Lane right there.
Yeah, I mean, that end of the project's water retention.
So.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to let you know that if your concerns are probably most likely going to be John and Charles's concerns. So they do want to be able to work with you on establishing for future development. So if they believe that some of this cannot be further developed because of where things are going to be, then they may say to Kira and to the company, either move it or we're not doing it. So that is an option. He doesn't want to tie his own hands. So understand that your concerns are probably the same as his. Once he gets more information from the company itself about where everything will be located. So he does not want to tie his own hands for future.
I thought the last time you were here, you were talking about connecting to the lines north of the property line. What happened to that? I mean, because they're looking right there.
I think so. So someone said that during the meeting, but it wasn't. But it wasn't me. And yeah, and our interconnection had been on the south. Yeah. Yep.
I think, and I'm gonna speak on behalf of a few people here. I think that a lot of this is gonna hinge upon where you can end up with those poles.
Sure.
And that moving it down to the ComEd. So I'm wondering if it's best to circle back,
Mhm.
Rick, after we find out whether or not.
But
those
again,
poles-
with that stipulation, I love where it's at now because it keeps it out of what the village sees as the retail corridor.
I like where they pushed it further in the corner now, that west corner. And the poles, I think, will be the least of our concern, considering a lot of the other ComEd poles aren't straight anyway, so it's not like they're beautiful to look at.
I said of a grain elevator to me, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's two driveway accesses that we determined, I prefer it to go
Right.
farther west. Agreed.
To be across from one of the village's driveway accesses?
No.
No.
The current one that comes through the, what is that, the 3 acre?
This one right here?
Just move the road and create another
Left.
corner lot.
This,
That one, yes.
you prefer to go where?
And the over farther west, which is your other way.
This way?
There you go.
And the curb cut that's through there.
For the access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I double checked. That's not their property.
That's
That's
not
a
their
different owner has like a sliver along the railroad there.
They morally-
Yes.
Yeah, that they chop wood.
Yeah.
And it had,
Underneath the soil is quite terrible.
It's all former railroad land.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a strip, strange shaped parcel. Yeah.
I'm always inclined to ask this question. He always brings it up. The two statements that were made, that it's a tax benefit to the village. I always want to know why. And two, that our residents will benefit from solar. I don't know why.
Yeah, good questions. In terms of the tax benefits, so solar farms are assessed as property and based on property tax law in Illinois, there is property tax law.
Capped at 30-something years.
So I'll kind of go through and then mention where this comes in. They are assessed on their megawatt basis. So this is a proposed 5 megawatt project. I won't get into the calculation, but it's 218,000 times some trending factor times 1.13, complicated. But what it comes out to is for a 5 megawatt project on this property, your taxes in year one would be, or the taxes we would pay in year one would be around $34,000 compared to, this fraction of the property right now in a given year is paying around $3,000. This number does have a depreciation factor. So each year it's, decreasing slightly. But then after a certain amount of time, and even at the kind of lowest point of this decrease, it's still significantly more than what you're seeing from ag land. And then there's like a cap on when you can claim depreciation. So I think at year 30 or 35, it kind of levels out to a baseline value.
You're saying the first year we're gonna get 34,000?
We're not.
Is that
We-
for
we
everything,
don't.
except for all the taxes?
That's for the entire.
Yeah, we get like-
That's for-
Or just the project.
Oh,
To the county,
that's what I thought.
Not to the village.
not to the village.
Oh,
Factors
sorry.
lot.
No, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just yeah, that's all the taxes for the project.
Portion,
All the
like,
tax.
And then, yeah, your project or your portion, I think is
3,000.
point.
Just a little bit more than.
So bit, yeah, Yeah.
Say it, we-
but you know, strong benefit to, yeah, right. So yeah, majority of that 34,000 to the
County.
local school district. And then your second question in terms of kind of community benefit, local benefit, I mean, but besides those, you know, taxes and supporting the local school district, there is also the community solar program wherein ComEd customers, residents, businesses, renters can subscribe to a community solar farm. Your subscription is kind of supporting the operation of the solar farm, and in turn, you're receiving a credit on your electricity bill. There's a variety of programs that are available, but typically there's a guarantee of 10% savings. These programs are like pretty well regulated, and there's a lot of consumer protection that's pretty strong in Illinois. The Citizens Utility Board has a lot of good resources on that. But yeah, so the kind of investment, the subscriber benefit, I think is, you know, a strong value add to the community. And then something I kind of haven't broached.
Say that this solar farm is generating the village of Davis Junction.
It's yeah, and right. So what it is, you know, you're contributing green energy to the grid, and you're contributing to a diversified grid, which, you know, is kind of better for grid resiliency. And then something I kind of haven't touched on yet, but in terms of Cultivate Power and how we're thinking about development is, you know, we are trying to kind of create more partnerships in communities and create local investments in communities beyond those baseline, you know, the taxes, the subscriber savings, the benefits to our landowners, et cetera. So, you know, we are, and, you know, if we're kind of continuing the conversation, I'd love to have conversations about what that could look like and what that makes sense to look like in this community. Some things that we are planning in other communities include like scholarships. So scholarships for like local students to the nearby community colleges. We also partner with fire departments. We are kind of thinking about, you know, what that looks like in a community specific basis.
With that, is this a program that you have like a slush fund for that you just give to all the communities that you're in, or is this something that you negotiate with?
There's kind of a range of, I would say, flavors of how this is moving forward for us. In some instances, in some projects that we've been working on, they're a part of one of the Illinois programs, which is back to the Illinois Solar Program. It's the community-driven community solar program, it's called. And so for those projects, we've you know, had kind of mandates from that state program about what does kind of community investment look like, what does the amount look like. And so those are more tailored where, you know, it is local and it is a conversation locally, I think we're trying to figure out how do we add most value locally. But so that's kind of one flavor of it. And then kind of another version is more just a conversation like, you know, what will add value here? Like how can we be making a difference? It is, I don't think maybe in a negotiation, but like a conversation where we're both on the same side of the table is kind of how we're thinking about it and how we really want this to look. And it's something we haven't seen a whole lot of across the industry, and what we think, you know, should be kind of the way forward for these community solar projects in Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she was talking about partnerships is something that Kira had talked to me prior to discuss what those partnerships in the community could look like. Something as simple as education for students is huge. So coming from a school district, I can tell you that is something that if you partner well with ComEd or with the solar panel companies, we can start to educate our youth on exactly what it is, what's the benefits of solar power, what does it do for you, and people then become educated and then can make some educated decisions as they get older, whether they like it or not like it, whatever it is. But there's a lot of partnerships. That's just one little one that you can create in your own community. And if you want additional ideas, those are things that I was going to talk to Kira about afterwards and what that looks like, at least through a school system's lens first. So that's just a small example of something that we can do.
Okay. Anybody have any further questions for him? Well, thank you. Please stick around.
Will you let me know when you get an answer from comment? I'll get you back on the agenda.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy,
I do not have anything.
Thanks.
Brenda,
have anything.
Matt,
Nope. Okay, I do.
I was gonna say,
I'll make it quick though. I'll make it quick though. I got with Dale today, kind of updated what I even sent in the last week. He told me on the Junction Way street reconstruction, he's gonna get the engineering proposals for the option 1 and then option 2 as an alternate to Chris yet this week. The Edson Road, Junction Road seal coat, you just approved the resolution and agreement tonight. Dale said he'll probably have that stuff over to IDOT for their review, probably by mid-March. Hopefully they can review it fairly quick and we can get out for bid sometime in early to mid-April.
Can I ask a question on this?
Yep.
Possible.
Does it?
Yep.
Do we have to go to electronic signatures?
That I don't know.
Can you get me an answer to that? 'Cause
Electronic signatures on what?
So all the documents that Dale's been sending over for MFT funds
Yep.
are all electronic signatures, which is all fine and dandy, except for when you're a government agency that needs to hold on to documents forever and ever.
Okay.
And so, well, so I have them printed, so can
Yeah.
I just have Rick?
I would think it'd be okay to just print them and sign them. Don't worry
Okay.
about the electronic.
Then I will.
Cause a lot of those are just fill, you know,
Yeah,
it's their forms are, you just fill them in and through the
yeah,
format. So yeah, I would say just print it and sign it,
okay,
but I will double check with Dale.
okay. Can you give me any answer to that? Because
Yep.
that's gonna become a question again next week, which is fine. If we need to go to that, then Rick and I'll figure out the logistics of it, but if we can still do physical signatures, I like them.
Yep. I will check with them on it.
All right, thank you.
Yep. The Junction Road sidewalk replacement in front of the fire department, he's gonna get Chris proposal for the bidding, construction and staking phase. He plans, since fire department's participating now, the plans really don't change, so I mean,
Right.
he's told me he's ready to go out for bid anytime, so do you want me to just have Dale coordinate that with you and Sandy as far as a bid advertisement and
Yes,
opening date?
yes.
Okay.
Just for the board's, I don't know, information. We finally did get a hold of the fire department, thanks to Jen. And apparently a roundabout way, but I finally talked to, Scott and he talked to his board members. Sorry, Todd. Todd Seaworth, right?
Yeah.
Who's Scott?
Todd. I've only saw his name, seen his name.
no, it's probably because it's Lynn Scott Fire Department.
Yeah, well,
All right.
but I talked to Mr. Seaworth, how's that? And he talked to his board members, so they're gonna participate and we're gonna move ahead as it was before. So that'll be easier for us and we'll be able to then get it bid as.
Yep. Yeah, he's ready to go.
Can't talk to.
We should have for next week, have an agreement with, Willard Hoffman for the engineering.
I already.
Yep.
All right.
And then the rebuild downtowns and Main Street grant application, I did get an unsolicited email from DCO and the gentleman said that they're ready to start moving on to the rebuild downtown and Main Street grant applications. He wouldn't tell me where we're at in the pile, but he said he's starting on that pile now. So hopefully here in the next month or so, we'll get that grant agreement. Talked to Dale, we've kind of got the detention pond laid out. He's working on the road profile. May need just a few tweaks there, but I would think that he thought by end of this week, early next week, he'll probably have things, at least a preliminary layout and stuff there. So either end of next week or sometime maybe the following week, I can send Sandy an email. We're probably ready to kind of meet on at least the roadway detention, lot layouts, and then maybe discuss want to have a discussion on the building itself. So it might be a kind of a,
Do you to go before the PZC?
not at this point.
Okay.
not at this point.
They only meet once a month.
Right.
and Even then, that's a rough.
Once a month, once a year.
Yeah, they meet once a year, but,
Probably need to have our first,
yeah, so I know we can, but we should still do it the proper way if we can. If as long as it's not holding anything up.
so that the first meeting might take a little time because we're gonna work through kind of the layout and the detention and stuff a little bit, and then, you know, get into the building construction and layout there and hopefully get some decisions made so we can plow forward. So I can send you maybe some dates, and we need to probably carve out a little time,
Your
you know.
group is going to be Rick and Chris.
Okay. And my crew will be me, Dale, and Tom Howe.
Yes, and Rick has gotten feedback from everybody else, so
Okay.
they're good to go whenever you are.
Okay, sounds good.
Doing talking as if you're not sitting there.
And then the last thing
What's that?
We're used to it.
What's that?
Be
Well-
talking as if you're not sitting there.
And the last thing I had was the Public Works Garage concrete driveway replacement. I think Dale said he sent a resolution on that as well, because you can use the MFT funds on it, and then we can kind of work through those construction drawings and permitting through IDOT.
Yes.
The agreement.
Yep.
Yes, actually Brenda and I spoke with him at about 4 o'clock today. We did ask him to revise one portion of the agreement to use the remainder of the RBI funds so that Brenda can close out our ARPA RBI funds.
All right.
And so
I thought they were the same as MFP.
they are not, they have to be listed separately
Oh,
on there.
alright.
So we did call Dale, he
Alright.
did fix that. We did get the revised one, so.
Okay.
And then Chris has asked for next week to be a special meeting so we can vote on all of those street project issues. Is
Wonderful.
that a yes?
Yes,
Okay.
That's it.
What'd you say, William?
that's it.
Yeah.
That's gotten awfully short. Wow. Okay. On to the committees. Jen?
I am working on filling the Easter eggs. That will take place April 1st, Saturday, April 1st. I was gonna say something else and I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, just go on. That's all I got for right now. Oh, garage sales. Sorry. June 8th, 9th, and 10th, and our electronic recycling will be on the 10th. Movie in the park will be on the 10th. I have to pick out that movie yet. That was another thing on my list I haven't done yet.
I did touch base with the movie gentleman again.
Okay.
He told me that he would have a contract once for both the tenth
Okay.
and the 3rd.
Okay.
They are.
Yes, 8th, 9th, and 10th. 610, yes,
72 quarter.
yes, yes. Yes,
We're hopeful to eventually get back to what we had originally
Please
planned
planned
before,
on how we want to do this. yes.
before COVID.
I like it.
And I have not received any feedback from the fireworks.
Yeah.
I have emailed twice. I have texted. I've had nothing. And I'm kind of starting to get irritated.
Maybe he's been the problem all along with the emails and communication, not Nate. Nate probably was just
No, I'm just,
trying to communicate with him as well. So it's him, not
Shocking.
Nate,
Hill.
which is the way we all made it seem like Nate wasn't communicating and Nate was just the same.
I really don't know.
Was it me?
Well,
All right, William,
I think I was talking to who it was.
we have nothing.
I have nothing.
Bill?
I'm open-minded as far as what we can do with the speeding vehicles. Besides that, they make a lot of noise. Up and down Junction Road. From I don't know what else to do. So if anyone, wants to give me any ideas on some of that stuff, please let me know, and I would certainly like to entertain your ideas and combine them and get something done to make it a lot more quieter and peaceful with these cars coming up and down the road there. That's from 72 all the way down to Overcross. Thank you, that's it.
Okay. John?
I met with Nate on,
Hill.
Hill
Thank
on
you.
Monday. Some of the discussion was the fireworks and the lack of communication from last year's event holder. Obviously, to me, it looks like it's probably the event holder. So Nate said, let the board know we do have other options probably this season if we wanted to switch contractors for fireworks, but I don't know if that's something we want to do. We also discussed the upcoming season in the parks and the employees. He's going to have a similar size crew as he did last year. Jimmy's our full-time employee. He's going to be taking over the
He's
schedule.
not full-time.
He-
He's our year-round seasonal.
Permanent part-time.
Permanent seasonal, but he's not full-time. He receives no benefits, nor does he work full-time hours.
Jimmy
Thank
will be taking over the scheduling for the village, for the events in the park and stuff like that. So Nate's role can be some of the other responsibilities. Nate had felt that the scheduling was taking away from some of that, so we're gonna give that a try this year. In my conversation with Nate, Sandy, he said you were preparing a letter with a offer on the land behind us.
Already done.
It's already done. So
Have
if
you heard
anybody has
back?
any questions, talk
William?
to Sandy. I've not heard anything.
Okay, we sent it about a week and a half ago.
Because we only get that extra money for so long, and then all that money we spent on the grant to get that money goes bye-bye, so.
Yep.
If we don't hear back soon, maybe there has to be another option to get hold of Mr. Payne.
know when that
It,
deadline is on the outlet?
I think it's 2024, early in the year.
But either way, I'll be here before you know it.
Months away.
one of the people that
It's a
we-
6-year project.
one of the people that owns the proper or is listed as contact point for the property is a business owner fairly regionally. And so I suspect that once they receive their letter, they need to contact their family members to get back to us. So I'm not shocked if it takes another week, but they are a business owner in which we could call them if we needed to, but I'd prefer to give them an opportunity to talk to their family members who reside in other states.
And then finally, the pond project, we're waiting to hear back from Fairgram, who's working with Porter Brothers, who won the bid. When actually we're gonna start. So there will be practices for softball coming up soon in March, weather permitting, the ground's a little wet.
This is just starting to speak.
That's it.
Chris?
Only thing I have is the sign. We're gonna look at it, Fergie, myself, and sorry, Sandy, I'll look at it. Make sure that.
You got
Make sure that.
You got that order wrong.
I actually told them about an hour ago.
Is that what that mumbling was when I came
We
in?
did receive some of the bid back, including a bid to replace the whole sign. So we need to chat about that too. I forgot to.
But we need to look at the sign itself. There's fake brick in front of it. I don't really care about that so much. I care about whether or not it can hold a new sign and and be in. Okay.
Oh, fake.
It is. It's faux brick or whatever you want to call it. It's like,
Can I move that to
Yeah.
unfinished business for now?
right.
Leave it on the agenda.
Is that?
Keep it on the agenda.
Want to go on Friday for it's supposed to be good for it.
That might be a little bit.
Tomorrow's 56. What are you waiting on Friday?
Friday, isn't it?
Anything further, Chris?
Yeah, it's gonna snow Friday. Residents.
All right. Kill the fish in the ditches.
Yeah. According to John.
That was from Ferg.
Nathan?
We're sending in the media, to get tested. It'll be back hopefully a week from receiving, so 2 weeks, let's say, by mail time and everything else.
30
Say
seconds.
2 weeks, we'll have some information back, and then we can make a decision how we're gonna roll forward from there.
The cheapest way.
It's not my motto.
Government
All right.
pay.
I heard you, and I ignored it, and moving on, I have nothing else.
How do you know? Anybody anybody have anything on economic development? I did ask that second business to start working on getting their stuff turned into, so they could be in the same point of launch as the other project. We'll see. Hopefully we'll. He has plans, so it's a matter of just turning them over. Anybody with anything on any of our unfinished business?
Just a question. Let's see. Brenda, would you be so kind to let me know when they email you for Ogle County for the next Economic Development Partnership meeting. Cause I asked them, if I can get on there, put my name on there. And they
It's-
said, no, it has to come from you.
The last email I received, I did see your name on there. So they did send you something from the last email? Which
When
was last
was
week.
that one?
Last week.
Last week?
Yeah, I saw your name on there.
Okay.
So
Thank you. I don't wanna, I want to try to attend all that I can and get favorable results. I certainly hope that someday will be a full partnership in there. I think it's a good deal, and I'm glad that you guys are giving it consideration. Let's see here. And are you asking for any other questions and anything else?
Unfinished business.
Oh. No, I gotta let you off the hook on that one.
All right, public.
What would be the,
What'd she say?
Glenda, you cut yourself off by muting it.
what will be the impact to the public on the fire station project? Will the Lindenwood take over any calls that happen until that's finished?
Believe they go out the back door then. If it's impediment on the front door, they'll just go out the back door.
They only have one door.
Actually, I never asked them. I figured that they would have
They'll figure that one
contingencies for it.
For them to determine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I figured they would have contingencies. I never asked them that question.
No, they will rearrange their
They should be able to.
operations.
Be summer, they can leave it outside if
They can run.
They can't do that, not with the equipment on it.
She's gonna be fire. Leaves.
Yep.
All right, just checking.
You might want to double check with them though, because I'm sure there's going to be some residents that are going to ask the minute they see things starting to get tore up.
Sure, I'll ask.
They'll jump on the community page and tell us what's going
I
on.
was gonna say, they're aware, they know that
Exactly.
they make adjustments.
Oh, lordy.
Got 4 seconds.
18 years is too long.
Yeah. We got 4 more to go.
Really?
Okay.
Good.
Any further? Public comment.
Do a section.
I'm done.
Anything further? The board members, officers?
Yes, when, on this special meeting that we're gonna have, is that gonna be that committees thing?
It will replace the committee of
Commi-
committees
And what's the date on that?
next Tuesday.
Same as it
When,
was.
wait,
Next Tuesday at 7:00.
This
It's
coming
going, it's going to replace the committee meeting. So you will receive a board pack and an agenda for next week like you
So-
normally
so-
would. It'll just be allowed to vote.
okay, what's that, the 3rd of March or something like that, or
9
Seven.
p.m.
Seven.
the 7th?
At 9 p.m.
7 to 7.
The only difference is at a special meeting, you can only talk about what's on the agenda. So if you have something you want to talk about, you have to put it on the agenda.
That'll be by this,
Something we haven't
Before-
already talked.
for
about.
the 7th of,
No, you need to tell me before
Right.
10 a.m. on Friday.
yes.
Okay.
Anything further from board members, employees, officers?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Donna makes a motion to adjourn. Chris seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Ah.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
And the time?
We're adjourned at 8:33.